In my hometown of Nashville, we had 3 different science teachers in the winter semester of my senior year. We all loved Mrs. Harper, but she went on maternity leave. Her replacement was a nutcase. She was a complete psycho. She lasted 2 weeks before the principal had to let her go. They had a disagreement about what science is and what religion is. She is replaced by Mr. Christensen. The first thing he does is redecorate the science lab with all his taxidermy. Some are pretty cool, but it freaked out many kids, especially the freshmen. He had all kinds of animals stationed all around the lab. On his desk up front he had an armadillo, and on top of the chemistry cabinet a raccoon. The girls found the possum the creepiest because its eyes were so bright and seemed to stare at you from wherever you were in the room. I was fascinated by the taxidermy and looked closely at the animals with Mr. Christensen. He's weird but knowledgeable. He said taxidermy has been his hobby since he was in high school. I complimented his work, and he just swelled with pride. He was more used to criticism and shrieks than compliments. Several classmates accused me of sucking up to get a better grade, but I was awed by the realness of the eyes. Mr. Christensen even said the eyes are the key to great taxidermy. In life, the eyes of humans and animals are the most intricately designed features of our faces. Our eyes are unique, as are our personalities. Our eyes aren't just the windows to our souls, they are our souls. Fast forwarding 10 years, I'm working in Nashville and married. My wife and I love these crime scene investigation shows, so in the evenings before bed we watch. This one night, they're dissecting the crimes of a serial killer, and they put a picture of a man's face up on the screen. It was my senior year science teacher. I screamed, "That's Bill Christensen!" He wasn't the victim on the coroner's table. He was the killer. He was our science teacher only for a few months, as Mrs. Harper returned after her maternity leave in the spring. But for 3 months, we had a serial killer as our teacher. It was worse than simply murdering multiple people. He mutilated their bodies. But the scariest thing was that he took trophies from each victim. If you already guessed it was their eyes, you would be correct. In high school, we had a kid named George. George and I weren't particularly close, but we had friends in common, so we did socialize together. He was a prominent debate team member, and I was more physical with the tennis and ski club. George, in my opinion, was always a little off. I think he had some kind of learning disability, so he was socially awkward. In our sophomore year, he was doing okay, and was dating a nice girl in our class. She was a friend of mine, so that kept George and me somewhat in touch. But in our junior year, George failed most every class and dropped out. After that, I didn't hear much about him. Someone told me they thought he tried to get his GED but failed. Time passed and I graduated. The summer after graduation, out of the blue, George calls me and invites me to go on a camping trip. It was a surprise since I hadn't seen or heard from him for over a year. He and a buddy I didn't know wanted me to join them. He said it would be a lot of fun. He knew of a great campsite that was a 3-hour hike to a secluded spot that was pretty awesome. He spoke about how great this would be, and I could bond with him and his friend, and we could become the 3 Musketeers or something or other. As he tried to sell me on going with him, I got that weird feeling in my gut. Be polite and just say goodbye. I haven't seen George in a year, and he's talking to me like we're best friends. I thanked George for thinking of me and politely declined his invitation. 2 months after, I saw a picture of George on the news channel. He and an accomplice had killed a local politician. According to the news report, it was a murder-for-hire job. George and the accomplice went on the run out of state, where they were captured by a SWAT team. At his trial, George confessed that he and his friend had planned on becoming professional hitmen and advertised on Craigslist, where they were hired to assassinate the politician. I recognized the name of his friend as the same guy to be on the camping trip last summer. It was the same person George recruited to become professional assassins. I believe that they invited me on the camping trip to that secluded and isolated location to murder me as practice in the killing. Looking back on my high school years, one person still haunts me. Her name was Megan. In my junior year, I had a massive crush on Brenda. She was beautiful, the most beautiful girl I'd ever laid eyes on. She was one of the most intelligent people in our class, but everyone called her the Ice Queen and Frozen Ella because she didn't speak or give any attention to anyone. It wasn't because she was stuck up or anything. She was just timid and inward thinking. She and I had much in common, and we bonded together. While others thought she was dead inside, I knew otherwise. And being somewhat outgoing, I thought I would breathe life into her. After about a month of being together, she started to withdraw. Then one day over lunch, she said she needed space. I was heartbroken. I begged her to give me a second chance. She agreed, but under the condition we would not be exclusive. It was high school, and she wanted to be able to date others and said it would be good for me to do so. This way, we can truly understand what we desire in our lives. Unperceived by me, a freshman named Megan was observing Brenda and me that day in the cafeteria. Megan approached me in study hall that afternoon. She was charming and said she overheard my conversation with Brenda, and she was sorry for me because I seemed like such a great guy. She was very sympathetic and offered to do whatever to take my mind off the negative situation. So, being a foolish high school boy, I asked her out. In some awkward way, I wanted to show Brenda that I could get a date quickly. Maybe I was being egotistical, but I know now it wasn't the right thing to do. Megan and I had some really great dates. We went to pizza and bowling on Saturday, walked in the park on Sunday. Megan helped take my mind off Brenda, but Brenda was still in my thoughts daily. In truth, Megan couldn't be the girl that Brenda was. Brenda was thoughtful and gentle, whereas Megan was impulsive, not always kind to others. In the second week, Megan asked for me to be her boyfriend. I tried to be honest and say I enjoyed being with her, but my heart still belonged to Brenda. Megan seemed to understand and said let's give it time. Unexpectedly one night, Brenda called, and she sounded so frightened. I asked what was up. She asked, "Did you leave something next to my window?" I said, "No. What are you talking about?" In a terrified voice, she said with tears running down her face, "Someone left a bloody animal heart. It is super gross, and a billion flies are all over it. What kind of psycho creep would do this?" I joked that Hannibal Lecter's son was enrolled at our school. We both laughed, and the tension was broken, and Brenda relaxed. I told her if it happened again to call the police. I called Megan and told her the scary story, and she agreed it was totally gross and who would be so psycho to do that. Only an insane ghoul would leave some bloody animal organs at some girl's house. Megan had a way of making me feel better. The very next night, Brenda called me again in a panic. She saw someone outside her house, and her parents were out of town. They were waving at her in her window in a very creepy way. "Call the police," I shouted. Brenda said she had, and they said they would send a patrol to check, but she was still so frightened. I ran the half mile to Brenda's, and when I rounded the corner of the house, I saw a figure dressed all in camouflage black standing outside her window. I ran full tilt and tackled the trespasser from behind. I was screaming as loud as I could to disorient them. We rolled and struggled together. It was a real fight, but I remember the trespasser was considerably smaller and weaker than myself, so I had all the advantage. I got my body on top, and my hands were around the intruder's neck when I heard Megan's voice. I was shocked. It turned out it was Megan who left the bloody pig's heart, and who had made several harassing voicemails on Brenda's cell phone. The police arrested her for trespass and for vandalism. Her persona as a cute freshman was all an act. Deep down, Megan was malicious and evil. Brenda ended up going her own way, and I miss her. Megan, with her demonic spirit, I hope I never see again.